Hi, 5th grade. Today we're going to be doing a Module 3, Lesson 8, and we are now going to be moving away from those models, those rectangular fraction models, for just a little bit, and we're going to be thinking about now how to add our numbers in a different way, how to add our fractions in a different way, and that is to be using our number lines. So you may have remembered number lines way back from Lesson 1, and we're now going to start using them again, but not just labeling the number lines. Now we're actually going to use them to help us solve problems. So let's go ahead and get started, and please make sure you have your Lesson 8 notes in front of you. Our first problem is going to be 1 plus 1 3/4. Now for this problem, what we're first going to do is we're going to label our number line starting with 0 because that is where we are going to be starting. And then since I have this 1 right here, I'm going to label another point 1, and I'm going to jump ahead to that point. So I'm now at my starting point of 1. And now what I'm going to do is I have to add this 1 3/4. Now you might look at that and think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? But how we're going to break down these problems is we're just going to worry about the whole numbers first. So don't even worry about this fraction part yet, this 3/4. We're just going to look at this problem as 1 plus 1. And 1 plus 1 we know is just 2. So we're just going to jump ahead again on our number line to show 1 plus 1 is 2. Now we can add on our fraction, and our fraction is 3/4. Since I am not adding another whole number, what I have to ask myself is what two whole numbers is my answer going to be in between? So if I have 2 here and I'm not adding a whole number, then that means that my answer is going to be in between 2 and 3, since 3 is one more whole more. I'm not going to reach the 3, but this lets me know that my answer is going to be somewhere in between these two lines. Now what I'm going to do next is I am going to break this section of my number line up into fourths so I can show all my little hops to my right answer. So I'm going to break this into 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then the 3 would technically be 4/4. So just to go back, we added 1 plus 1, so 1 plus 1, and now we're adding on the 3/4. And to help us find that answer, we split up our line into fourths. Just this section though, because that is where my answer is going to lie. So now I have to hop ahead 3 spaces because I am adding 3/4. So starting here at the 2, I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. And this lets me know then that my answer is going to be 2 and 3/4, since this is 1, 2, 3 spaces forward in that little section. So my final answer for this problem is 2 and 3/4. Once you know how to do this, you could probably start doing them in your heads, but it also helps to have these number lines so you can kind of visualize how your numbers are moving on this number line. So that's how we do our first problem. Now we're going to move on to our next problem, and what this one is 2 and 3/10 plus 3. So this problem again is pretty similar to the last one that we just did. And again, we're going to have our number line right here. We're going to be starting at 0. And what I first want to do is I just want to worry about the whole numbers. Wherever I see a fraction, I'm just going to kind of pretend that's not there for right now. And I'm just going to think about what is 2 plus 3. So I'm going to move ahead to 2 on my number line. This would be 1, so 0, 1, 2. So now I'm at that 2 I needed. And then I need to add 3 more. So I'll start at this 2, and I'll bump over 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that gives me 3, 4, and 5. But I'm not just done right there. That just lets me know that I am stopping there for now, but I still need to add this 3/10. And again, I have to ask myself that question, what whole numbers is my answer going to lie in between? So I know I have 5 right here, and I think about, well, what's one whole more than 5? That would be 6. So now what I need to do is I need to break apart this number line between 5 and 6 into tenths and add my 3/10. So I have, this would, at 5, this would be like 0/10, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that the 6 would be 10/10 or a whole. And then, since I have this 3 in the numerator, I'm going to jump ahead 3 spaces, starting at the 5 where I left off at. So I jump ahead 1, 2, 3, and that leaves me with my final answer. So the whole number before, wherever your hop stopped, unless it was all the way at the 6, this is the whole number that is part of my answer, and then 3/10 is the fraction. So I got all the way to 5 with 3/10 more, so my answer is 5 and 3/10. It would not be 6 and 3/10 because I'm not past that 6. So whatever whole number you just passed, that is your whole number for your mixed number. All right, let's move on to our next problem. So for this next problem, we are going to switch it up just a bit now, and we are going to be subtracting. So I have 1 minus 1/4. So to show this, I'm actually going to do my number lines a little bit backwards, actually. So since I am taking one whole and I'm taking away from it, I'm going to actually start at this end of my number line, and I'm going to show that this is 1 whole and that I need to subtract 1/4. Well, again, I need to think about what whole numbers is my answer going to be in between, because I'm not subtracting a whole number. So if I think about 1 minus 1 whole, that would just give me 0. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my number line up into fourths, because that is my denominator, and then show my work to find my answer. So it doesn't matter which way you go, whichever way works for you. So you can start over here and think of, okay, this is like 0/4, kind of like a throwback to the lesson 1 problems that we had done. Over here would be 1/4, 2/4, and then 3/4, and then this one right here would be 4/4. Now what we need to do is remember we're starting at 1, and then we're subtracting 1/4. So it's almost like you're just solving for what is 4/4 minus 1/4. And with that, I know that 4 minus 1 is 3, or I just bounce over 1 time, because I'm just moving over once because the numerator tells me to, and that gives me my final answer of 3/4. Now I know I said that usually you would write the whole number that the answer is just past, but it would be kind of silly to write our fractions like this. So we're not going to write our fractions like that. Our fraction, our answer, is just going to be 3/4. And that, again, is our final answer. So we just have one more problem to do now, and that's on the back. And this one's going to be similar to this one, but a little bit trickier. And what we're going to be doing now is we are subtracting 2 minus 3/5. So again, I'm going to draw a number line, and I'm going to start on this end of my number line since I am subtracting. Usually when you add, you start on this end. If you're subtracting, you start on this end. So I'm going to put a 2 right here, and I'm going to take a look at the number that I am subtracting. Since I am not subtracting something that is a whole number or more than a whole number, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to think about, well, what whole numbers is my answer going to be in between? So I think about what's 2 minus 1 whole. Well, 2 minus 1 would just give me 1. So I'm just going to label this end as 1. And then I need to split my line into fifths so I can see what my answer is. So if I have a 5 right here, that lets me know that I have to split it into fifths. So I could say that this one over here would be like 0/5. This would be 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and this 2 right here will be 5/5. And then I can start making my way backwards to find my answer. Again, you could also think of this kind of like 5/5 minus 3/5. So I'm going to start making my way backwards. 1, 2, 3. I'm subtracting 3 or jumping back 3 spaces because I have a 3 in my numerator. So I go back 1, 2, 3, and that leaves me with what I think is just 2/5, but don't forget that the whole number that your answer is just past, so since my answer is here, it just goes past this whole number of 1. So in this case, I will put the 1 next to it, so my final answer is 1 2/5. Usually you always put the whole number that your answer is just past, unless it is 0. So our final answer for this problem is 1 2/5. Your U-try problem is going to be very similar to what we just did, so make sure you take a look at these notes carefully to help you out with the U-try problem, because you are subtracting 3 minus 1 2/3. So think of that as 3 minus 1, what is that? And then subtract the 2/3, and think about what two whole numbers is my answer going to be in between. So go back and look at the video if you need to help you out with that, and always remember what two whole numbers is your answer going to be in between. Good luck today, 5th grade, and great job.